Hi, my name is Jamie Stroble, and today I'm going to be talking about the professional experience I'm probably most proud of from my 6 years as a trader in Chicago. I still have a very vivid memory of my first day on the job. I remember arriving at 5 in the morning and being greeted by a very tired-looking member from the staff who showed me around the facility and eventually dumped me off onto the trading floor next to my new boss. And once the trading day began and the opening bell rang, my boss started running me through a list of the responsibilities associated with my position, the do's and the don'ts. And as he was talking to me, I remember looking over his shoulder and seeing another trader grab an office chair and hurled across the trading floor about 10 feet. The guy screamed, he jumped on top of the chair on the ground and started pummeling it into the ground. And all the while, my boss didn't even flinch. He didn't even acknowledge us. For maybe a couple minutes later, when he goes, "Oh, that's Mike. He's actually a really nice guy. Just try to ignore him." So in this moment, I wondered what sort of alternate universe I just stumbled onto, where cracked LCD monitors and torn apart chairs were somehow considered normal. And it was also in this moment that a very real wave of regret began to sweep over me. Now, I'm sure we've all experienced this phenomenon at some point where you finally achieve a goal that you've been working towards. You're allowed maybe a moment of satisfaction before your mind recalibrates and you go from wondering how can I achieve some goal to wondering how I'll possibly be able to maintain and service this goal that I've worked so hard for. So flash forward about 4 years and half a financial crisis later, I found a modest trading strategy that worked for me. I also became personally a little more hardened and probably more than a little bit angry, like the bosses who'd hired me. And I found a lot of this anger and anxiety came from a training method at the firm that pitted junior traders against each other and uses the successes and failings of your peers as a primary means of motivating you. And while this worked for a lot of my peers, it decidedly did not work for me. All it did was make me a nervous wreck every day that I came into the office. So it was also around this time that I was given the opportunity to train a new class of incoming traders. When I first met with them, I already noticed this philosophy of competition beginning to creep into the classroom. They just recently hired a young grad from the University of Chicago who is incredibly bright but also very introverted and who was already pretty much paralyzed by fear. I noticed his peers taking shots at him in the classroom, and I noticed management that was only able to motivate him by giving him ultimatums. Now, I related to his situation as an introvert myself. It's not easy being a quiet, contemplative person in an industry dominated by brash risk takers. So I started working with him on a daily basis and kind of coaching him through the psychological challenges that we dealt with. And in working with him, I was able to distill a couple basic truths about staying personally and professionally focused. And I tried to preach these to him at every opportunity that I had. And the advice that I gave to him was this: never make decisions rooted purely in competition, because when you do and you succeed, you'll always find someone whose successes exceed your own. And when you do and you fail, you'll never learn from your mistakes because you'll always find someone whose failings exceed your own. Instead, concentrate only on the things that you can control, and letting go of the rest is crucial to existing in uncertainty. Now, over the course of the next year, this trader became one of the most consistent traders in his class, and ultimately to this day, probably one of the more profitable traders at the firm. I have no idea what role my coaching and might have played in his development. He was already a pretty smart guy to begin with, which is pretty helpful. But what I do know is that his ultimate success and the lessons I took away from working with him ended up being probably the most gratifying professional experience of my career. So thank you for allowing me a few minutes of your time today, and I appreciate you listening to me. Thanks so much.